it's Presley at ActOutGames.com here, and today is the 5th day of Bookmas. Would you like to get started?
And I have my other book because I'm going to see this is the cat book I've been waiting for the collection of it. So let's see, I got the cat book. It looks like that. Yes, that's the book I'm going to need it because I'm going to need it. I have all of the, how can it be? No! It's a new the first series of the, I do not know what the TV show this is, but I think my mom knows, but it kind of looks like some elves. I think it looks like a Christmas book.
It's Snow White. Haven't you seen that? Did you see it when we were watching all the Disney movies?
A long time ago.
Alright. So
and it has little puppies, so I must say I have it because they both have pookie little puppies. And I'm so glad I have these because they're on the back of these.
Alright, so I'm going to get started.
I think it's the cat one. But I didn't have the dog one.
Alright, so I have The Miracles Boys by Jacqueline Woodson, and I'm quite excited to read this. I'm really excited to get started reading my Bookmas books. So John Green recommended this book, and I'm really, really excited to read it because obviously if John Green recommended it, it would be really, really good. So I'm quite excited to finally get started on reading all my books, including this one. Alright, so let's go read Cooper's book. Okay. Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Long ago, in a faraway kingdom, there lived a lovely young princess named Snow White. Her stepmother, the queen, was cruel and vain. She hated anyone whose beauty rivaled her own, and she watched her stepdaughter with angry, jealous eyes. The queen had magic powers and owned a wondrous mirror that spoke every day. The queen had magic powers and owned a wondrous mirror that spoke. Every day she stood before it and asked, "Magic mirror on the wall, who is the fairest one of all?" And every day the mirror answered, "You are the fairest one of all, O queen, the fairest our eyes have ever seen." As time passed, Snow White grew more and more beautiful, and the queen grew more and more envious. So she forced the princess to dress in rags and work from dawn to dusk. Despite all the hard work, Snow White stayed sweet, gentle, and cheerful. Day after day she washed and swept and scrubbed, and day after day she dreamed of a handsome prince who would come and carry her off to his castle. One day, when the queen spoke to her mirror, it replied with the news she had been dreading. There was now someone even more beautiful than the queen, and that person was Snow White. The queen sent for her huntsman. "Take Snow White deep into the forest," she said, "and there, my faithful huntsman, you will kill her." The man begged the queen to have mercy, but she would not be persuaded. "Silence," she warned. "You know the penalty if you fail." The next day, Snow White, never suspecting that she was in danger, went off with the huntsman. When they were deep in the woods, the huntsman drew his knife. Then suddenly he fell to his knees. "I can't do it," he sobbed. "Forgive me." He told her that it was the queen who had ordered this wicked deed. "The queen?" gasped Snow White. "She's jealous of you," said the huntsman. "She'll stop at nothing. Quick, run away and don't come back." "A lie," to the queen. "Now go, run, hide." Frightened, Snow White fled through the woods. Branches tore at her clothes. Sharp twigs scratched her arms and legs. Strange eyes stared from the shadows. Danger looked everywhere. Snow White ran on and on. At last, Snow White fell wearily to the ground and began to weep. The gentle animals of the forest gathered around her and tried to comfort her. Chirping and chattering, they led her to a tiny cottage. "Oh," said Snow White, "it's adorable, just like a doll's house." But inside, the little tables and chairs were covered with dust, and the sink was filled with dirty dishes. "My," said Snow White, "perhaps the children who live here are orphans and need someone to take care of them. Maybe they'll let me stay and keep the house for them." The animals all helped, and soon the place was neat and tidy. Meanwhile, the 7 dwarves who lived in the cottage were heading home from the mine where they worked. The dwarves were amazed to find their house so clean. They were even more amazed when they went upstairs and saw Snow White. "It's a girl," said Doc. "She's beautiful," sighed Bashful. "Oh," said Grumpy, "she's going to be trouble, mark my words." Snow White woke with a start and saw the dwarves gathered around her. "Why, you are not children," she said. "You're little men. I read your names on the bed," she continued. "Let me guess. You're Doc, and you're Bashful, you're Sleepy, you're Sneezy, you're Happy and Dopey, and you must be Grumpy." When Snow White told the dwarves about the Queen's plan to kill her, they decided that she should stay with them. "We're asking for trouble," humped Grumpy. "But we can't let her get caught by that wicked queen," said Doc. The others agreed. That night after supper, they all sang and danced and made merry music. Bashful played the concertina? Happy tapped the drums, Sleepy tooted with his horn, Grumpy played the organ, and Dopey wiggled his ears. Snow White loved her new friends, and she felt safe at last. Meanwhile, the Queen had learned from her mirror that Snow White was still alive. With a magic spell, she turned herself into an old peddler woman. She filled a basket with apples, putting a poisoned apple on top. "One bite," she cackled, "and Snow White will sleep forever. Then I'll be the fairest in the land." The next morning, before they left for the mine, the dwarves warned Snow White to be on her guard. "Don't let nobody or nothing in the house," said Grumpy. "Oh, Grumpy," said Snow White, "you do care." "I'll be careful, I promise." She kissed him and the others goodbye, and the dwarves went cheerfully off to work. A few minutes later, the Queen came to the kitchen window. "Making pies, dearie?" she asked. "It's apple pies the men love." "Here, taste one of these." She held the poisoned apple to Snow White. Snow White remembered the dwarf's warning, but the woman looked harmless, and the apple looked delicious. Snow White bit the apple. Then, with a sigh, she fell to the floor. Told by the birds and animals that something was wrong, the dwarves raced back to the cottage. They saw the Queen sneaking off, and they ran after her. As the storm cloud gathered and rain began to fall, the dwarves chased the Queen to the top of a high, rocky mountain. Crack! There was a flash of lightning, and the evil Queen fell to her doom below. But it was too late for Snow White. She was so beautiful, even in death, that the dwarfs could not bear to part with her. They built her a coffin of glass and gold, and day and night they kept watch over their beloved princess. One day, a handsome prince came riding through the forest. As soon as he saw Snow White, he fell in love with her. Kneeling by her coffin, he kissed her. Snow White sat up, blinked, and smiled. The prince's kiss had broken the evil spell. As the dwarves danced with joy, the prince carried Snow White off to his castle, where they lived happily ever after. The end. Was that a good book, Cooper? Have you heard that story before? Alright, so if you want to keep up on Bookmas, then please subscribe. It would really help us out. So yeah, thanks for watching, and as tomorrow. Bye!
Bye. It's time to press the subscribe button. Subscribe button. Subscribe button. Subscribe. Bye, 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 bye.